Hey friends, welcome into the Leadership Sandbox. I'm Tammy J. Bond, your host, and today we are going to be talking all about self-management in leadership and specifically how it up-levels your impact. And why is that important? Because self-management is the cornerstone of impactful leadership because it sets the foundation for everything else you do as a leader. And here's why. We all know that credibility starts with consistency because it creates that level of trust. And leaders who manage themselves well, they build that trust. And we also know that emotional resilience fuels influence because self-management equips you to stay calm, composed, in alignment with your core values when high stress situations come in. The third part of it is clarity, and clarity enables better decision making. When you manage your time, your energy, and resources personally, you focus effectively, you can then prioritize effectively as well. And then that leads you into modeling the behaviors that you expect for others, and it enhances your capacity. All of this has to do with your own personal self management. And that's what we're diving into in the sandbox today. So I want you to kick off your shoes, grab your pen and paper, step into the sandbox because we're going to get going in 3, 2, 1 now. I'll see you inside the sandbox. All right, friends, welcome back in. Hey, listen, I know that this whole thing around self-management might be for some of you a new topic or a topic that might be, you might actually think you've really mastered self-management well. And here's one of the things that I want you to know. It's not just about personal growth for you. It's really about creating conditions in your environment where your team can thrive. You being excellent in your self management as the leader creates an environment where others can thrive. When you lead yourself with discipline and being intentional in your leadership, you create that ripple effect you all have heard me talk about before of trust and focus and impact throughout your team, throughout your organization. When people see you modeling what effective self management looks like, they then also want to model because they understand that's the expectation level that you've set. They're going to show up for you and meet you where you're at. I want to go over the 4 keys for you of self management and why that's important or what's important about each one of them. The first key to effective self-management, right? Which remember, we're really wanting you to lead with energy and clarity and empathy. And remember that we're wanting you to build up your emotional resilience and we're wanting you to really stand in you're building trust, which creates that credibility because you're consistent, right? You're consistent with the way that you manage the projects, the people, the team, right? Because listen, without self-management, leadership can appear to be chaotic and reactionary, and even erode credibility for you. And when you are in an environment where maybe people aren't trusting, how do you build and foster more trust? It starts with YOU. And that YOU is your own universe, right? You've created yourself at such a high level of importance as a leader, which we all do when we step into those leadership roles, but creating that sense of trust and that currency, I'm going to call it a currency of credibility, is so important as you are moving through your leadership journey. So self-management isn't just about personal growth, as I said. It's really about creating the conditions in your environment where everyone can thrive. And there are 4 key ways to do that, right? For maximum impact, I'm going to start with key number 1, energy management. Own your power source. You are a powerful individual. You are an energy source that others suck energy from. I'll say it that way, right? But you want to know that you are, as your own personal energy source, right? How do you spend the currency of energy wisely so that as it feels that you've got people that are sucking it from you, how do you recharge and rejuvenate that energy for yourself? It's really about managing it well for you. Because if you're always pouring out and giving to others, right? Can't pour from an empty cup, you know the whole thing. And I want to highlight this as an important fact. You want to identify those energy draining people as well as the habits or the triggers that are zapping your energy, that are taking away from you versus fueling you and building you up. If you have somebody on your team that when they come in your office, you're immediately on guard, or you're just like, oh, you got to like frame up your mind and get ready for the conversation that you're going to have because you just know it's going to be a challenging one. And they take so much effort and energy. You want to protect yourself from those people. It's okay when your energy zapper comes in the office and they're being spontaneous for you to say, thanks, energy zapper. I'm going to push pause on the question that you're going to ask and let's schedule time to talk. Why do that? The reason that you do that, friend, is because you're then creating that safe space around your own energy and managing your time and that resource power well. And it's okay to let that zapper know, I'm going to push pause and let's get some time scheduled so that you then can frame up your mind. You're framing up your inner self to be ready and prepared for when that energy zapper then comes through the door. I also want you to look at creating routines that sustain you physically and mentally and emotionally. That's our morning rituals. That's our exercise habit. That's our self talk habit. Let me tell you, I caught myself in a negative self talk path today. Someone sent me, someone sent me a text message and they sent me this screenshot. They're listening to an episode in the sandbox and they were excited and celebrating. And I immediately was looking, going, they're sending me a screenshot of, is there a typo on the screen? Is there like, is there a problem? Does the number not match? Like why did they send me the screenshot? Well, they were just sending it to me to celebrate that they were actually taking time to separate themselves, to fuel, right? To refuel, to build themselves up on the inside. And they were listening to the podcast and they wanted to celebrate that with me, which was awesome. And yet, where did my self talk go? Oh my gosh, something must be wrong. Are they, what? Right. Completely gave energy to an area instead of allowing it to fuel me, right? It took it away. So here's what I had to go back to. My routine of how I manage my self talk with the way that I say my affirmations daily, I had been out of that. I had been getting into the momentum of a busy season and I got out of my own time that I carve out every single morning to do my own routine of self care in my self talk and in my affirmations, right? That's so important to recognize. And I'm glad I caught it quickly because I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I immediately do? I immediately went to my affirmations. I immediately went to looking at, what I want to put in place for me today in the moment to reshift this little bit of a negative route that I went on in my brain, completely unnecessarily so. I got back to what that routine was because I recognized I got out of it. Physical, making sure you're getting out for daily walks, you're doing some form of exercise every single day. Now, some of you might be going, I don't have time for that. You don't have time not to, friend, because that's what actually helps energy management for us, right? When we align our peak performance hours, when we align those tasks that we do, that we have to our highest, most efficient time, those peak performance hours, that's another way of energy management, right? It's really important that we have the routine. And in that routine, we understand how we're aligning our peak performance hours. For me, I'm an early morning person. So I love to get up early. And that's when I wake up, I'm like, okay, I've got my self-care routine to do and my devotional time, because that's my spiritual time is very important. My time for prayer and just focusing in for me, that fuels me. And when I get out of that routine, I immediately see a difference as well in my energy level. But I want to challenge you to audit your day and really look at, where are you spending the energy, but where are you fueling and refueling and gaining energy? What are those routines that help you to be the best version of you possible? And look at, as you do the audit, what has your attention or is taking energy from you, and how do you reclaim that? Just like that text message that came in for me, I had to go, whoa, take a minute. What are you doing, Tam? Why are you thinking that just because they sent you this screenshot, there must be something wrong? um, I did a major audit on myself. when that after that happened, after that experience, it was important for me to do that so that I could look at, if not this, then what? Like, ooh, that's not like me, right? Stop that, Tammy. That's not, I'm better than that. They're sending me something to celebrate. And who cares? Even if there was an error, I'm glad I have people in my life that say, hey, heads up, you might have a typo here. You might want to take a look, which wasn't the case, but I'm glad I know I have people that would also do that. But I want to, again, challenge you to audit your day. Where's your energy being wasted? Where's the energy zappers for you? And how are you going to reclaim that and own it? Because it's so important. And please get out and do a physical daily exercise, something every single day. It's so important mentally, physically, emotionally, heart rate, all of that plays into it because energy management and you owning your power is a key to maximum impact. It's absolutely true. Number two is boundary setting. And you know, I am a big fan of how we set boundaries. The art of saying no, that no is a complete sentence. N-O, that is a complete sentence, y'all. Saying no isn't selfish, it's strategic. And for some of you, I'm rocking your world right now because you're like, I can't say no. What does it mean if and you've got all this story that's attached to that. But clear boundaries protect our time, our focus, our mental well being. They protect our energy as well. But clear boundaries also model a behavior that is so key and important for our business, for our team, for the other members, for our peers. It's really a great tool is boundary setting. And the difference of here's one of the things that I think sometimes people think that if I set boundaries, if I have two, that I'm not approachable. I want an open door, right? Anybody can come in and talk. Anybody can come in and talk to me at any time, right? Well, there's a risk at being over available, right? And there's a difference between being approachable and being over available. What is that difference? Approachable is when I have cleared my space and I am in a good frame of mind and I am letting people know you can come into my office and I've got a boundary of time that's protected. So not available from 8 to 10, but I'm available between 10 and 11 for you to just pop in. That's going to be better for me. Or here's another boundary. You're welcome to pop in and ask me if I have a few minutes and trust that I'm going to know well enough to say no, not right now, but come back in 22 minutes and I'll have more time. That's my responsibility to set that boundary and let people know not to take it personally, right? Setting boundaries with the way that we use technology. You've heard me talk about your 6-inch devices, setting boundaries with the way we manage meetings. And even like I shared with my own self-doubt with the text message that came through, setting boundaries around that. Stop that. I'm better than that. What if not this, then what, right? I want to challenge you to think about the area of your life where you might be overcommitting, where you might be spending too much time, where you might be allowing people to intrude too much into your personal space, where you might be using your 6-inch device too much to distract you off of the real conversations that you need to have at home. Let me say that again. Where are you using your 6-inch device, the little phone, right? That might be distracting you off the conversations or the boundaries for you to set at home, at work with other people. You want to look at where you might be overcommitting yourself and then implement a plan. I might be overcommitting myself or a fear of overcommitting myself, so I'm going to be distracted. There's so many things that can be penetrating us. But I want you to work at identifying this week the area where you could be overcommitting and how are you going to then implement a boundary? Or identify where you've made yourself too accessible and too available. And how do you walk that back with your team or with your peers and let them know what the true availability is for you? How does that work? Where is that? So important for you to do that because the better you are at saying no, not right now, right? No, because it's a complete sentence. No, that's not an option, or no, not right now, not yet, but this is when, and you follow it up with but this is when. That helps everybody to know what to expect from you and how they can make bold requests of you that supports the boundaries that you're setting for yourself, for your own well-being. It's such a key. Number 3, emotional mastery. That's kind of a really loaded sentence, right? Right. Emotional mastery. I want you to learn to lead from the inside out, meaning not to give in to the emotions that are driving our decisions, but to master them. To understand when I have a rising up on the inside, it's important for me to recognize what that rising up is that I might be reacting to in the moment and to learn how to master that, or it's going to master me every day, all day long. When I have a rising up and I want to be reactionary, that emotion in that moment is actually what's going to drive the rest of the conversation, and it could drive it down a path off a cliff I don't want it to go. So there is importance in understanding your own emotional well-being, your emotional intelligence, EQ, EI. You've probably heard about it. We've talked about it on the show. Having self-awareness and self-regulation are two of the key components of emotional intelligence. Absolutely key to understand when you might be having that reaction or where you need to take that time out so that you're leading from understanding what's happening here at a heart level, here at a stomach, at a gut level, what's going on, and what do I want to do with it next? Really important to ask yourself that. And then it's push pause and ask yourself that next best question, especially in any kind of moment, high stress moment, or especially when you feel like maybe you're caught off guard by something that's happening. Pushing pause is huge. Pushing pause in team meetings, also another big one. Push pause, take a breath, ask the next best question. This just came up for me. I was thinking about it. Someone reached out to me on LinkedIn the other day on a comment. It was a couple weeks ago now, a comment that I made on somebody's post. And they had said, well, what's your tip? What's your number one tip, Tammy, when you get into high pressure situations with the team or in a meeting? What do you do? I said, easy. I push the pause button. I visualize the pause button. I push it. I take a breath and I ask the next best question. That question could be of self and it could be of others. That's another way when things are emotionally charged. My responsibility is to me first. My responsibility is to how I'm responding in that moment. And pushing pause and taking a breath helps me to regulate and become aware of what I'm feeling, what sensations running through my body in that moment, and then what I want to ask. Because the ripple effect of your emotional state impacts your team's culture. The ripple effect of your emotional state impacts your team's culture. And so the more that I can master my emotions, the way that I respond in high stress moments, right? The way that I maneuver when people are pushing against me in a way that's uncomfortable, or when something comes up when one of my core values is being impacted, how I push pause, take a breath, and ask myself, what do I need in this moment? What do I know to be true in this moment? When have I seen this before in this moment? When I can ask one of those three questions, and there's always others, but those are the three that come up at the moment, that helps me to regulate and to get clear on what I'm having, what reaction I might be having in that moment. And one of the opportunities that you have as well, listeners, is that you can take a moment to even journal about recent emotional reactions that you have. I actually, again, had this happen with a client where I was having a reaction to something that they said. It was something that they asked of me. And I was like, whoa, I had to go, whoa, what was that? What was that? Like someone just like, the top of a soda, when you pop the can and you've got that release of air, that pop and that release. I just had that release of, whoa, what just happened? And I want to get back to, what do I know? Push pause. They are looking out for my highest and best good. They're just asking a question in a really weird way, right? So, okay, what do I want instead? What's the follow-up question I have? So I could bring it back into being regulated for myself. And that's what I modeled in the moment, and it all worked out well. But it took me to push pause, take a breath, and ask the next best question. That's one of the greatest keys, the simplest keys I can give you to having emotional mastery as you're navigating your self-awareness and your self-regulation. So important. And then number 4, radical accountability is one of the keys to self-management and having maximum impact, friends. You're the CEO of you, your own universe. You are the CEO. You are the chief energy officer. You're the chief engagement officer. You're the, fill in the whatever else that acronym stands for you. You engage you. You engage in your own energy every single day. And accountability doesn't have to be a chore. It actually is better when you turn it around to it's your superpower. See, I believe that accountability is an inside job. It's an intrinsic motivation. My responsibility to the work that I have before me and how I navigate in the work that I have before me is also key, right? That responsibility that I have to what people expect of me or where I've given my word, I'm accountable to that. No one else can hold me accountable. They just get to remind me what I'm responsible for. So, radical accountability for self is so important so that I'm building my own system of check ins. I'm leveraging the trust that I have with my peers, with my mentors, with the team, because I'm asking for honest feedback. And I'm doing all of this so that I can have an impact that models that accountability to others. I want to have an impact that says, I'm accountable to me and I'm responsible to you all to ensure that I get the work done that I have before me or I follow through with the commitments that I've made. And you have permission to remind me what I'm responsible for so that I hold myself accountable to that every single day. And there's this one little system that you can create on creating micro accountability systems. So you might try to do that with one thing you've been procrastinating. What's one area that maybe you've been resisting? And then how do you check in with self on how you're being accountable to the commitment that you've made there? So if there's an area that you've been procrastinating, put a by when. What's the by when? And then have check-ins with yourself or yourselves. You might have multiple yous with yourself. Have check-ins with yourself daily. Check in. What's the progress that I'm making? By this date, I want to make this progress. By this date, I want to make this progress. And if you're checking in daily, those are those little micro accountabilities for self to check in to see if this is an area that I'm pushing off or I might be procrastinating. How do I shift and change that? And the more you do it, the more confident you get, but it also fuels your fire. It actually builds confidence in the work that you're producing instead of giving into the fear of what if I don't, or it's comfortable if I just don't push that hard. And that's where procrastination can get in the way. But radical accountability, because you're the CEO of you, right? You're the one that makes the decisions for you, how you move forward. Remember, accountability can be your superpower. When we're accountable to self first, it's our superpower. So I want you to think about these 4 points. How are you doing with your energy and your energy management? Friend, how do you do with setting boundaries and or pulling back in boundaries if you've gotten too loosey-goosey with them? And third, I want you to think about your emotions. How are you doing with your self-regulation, your emotional awareness? How are we doing with that? Are you one that finds yourself staying up here with your shoulders to your earlobes? You're breathing up real hot because whatever that is for you. Is that where you go? I don't know. But what I would offer is when you're accountable to how you want to respond versus react, that self-regulation in your emotions, that setting boundaries and energy play, that energy management, it all works together. It all works together for your good. Self-management, friend, isn't just a personal journey. It's a gift you give to yourself, to your team, and of course, to the legacy that you're building. In every word that you speak, what you leave behind makes a difference as a leader. So when you master yourself, that impact that you create is going to make you unstoppable. It's going to have an incredible impact for the future, for the work that you're doing, for the legacy, the name that you're leaving behind. Who do you want to be known, seen, and celebrated for? And for some of you, that's a really tough statement to swallow. When I say that to leaders, many of them are like, it's not about me, Tammy. I don't want to be celebrated. I don't need to be acknowledged. Yeah, you still want to be known. And I think that we do want to be celebrated for the good work that we do, for the contribution that we make, for the commitments that we make. All of those things are so important. So here's my call to action for you. I want you to take some time to think about and write out who are the people in your life that maybe could benefit from understanding their own impact that they make with their own self-management or the lack thereof, that maybe could benefit from hearing this episode. And I want you to share it with them. And I want you to discuss one key takeaway with someone today, someone on your team, maybe it's your partner, your spouse, whoever. I want you to actually talk about one key takeaway and what you're going to do different as a result of what you learned in the sandbox here today. Because here's what I know to be true, friends. Leadership is not something that we're born with. Self-management is not something that we're just born with and born to know how to do. We grow into those areas with every day that goes by, with intentionality and with focus and a commitment. So leadership isn't something we're born with. It's something that we grow into. And I am celebrating and acknowledging you for taking time to grow into that next level of leadership and self-management today in the sandbox. Make it a great day. God bless you.